Hello, YouTubers, and welcome back to another episode of The Grandstand here on the Ohio Patriot Education Network YouTube channel. I am, as always, your host, AR the Ohio Patriot. Before today's episode, we're going to talk about our good old friend East Coast Cory, who was the dude who was on one or a couple of Honda's panels back in the day, and how this dude's basically just a man child, just like most of the you know younger millennials and older Gen Z kids are and stuff like that. And that's the problem with these people that are, under the age of 25 really is what it is. And I think that dude's like 22 to 24, somewhere in there. And the thing is, it's like when you don't really have a whole lot of life experience, because you've barely lived is what it is. It's very hard to actually have, a well thought out opinion about society, about human nature, all that stuff like that is what it is. And the real issue becomes it tends to be these people, the younger generations and stuff like that, especially the people that get into the I'm not even sure what the hell the guy called himself. It's like an offshoot of like I forget what that was offhand, what he actually considered it to be. It's like some weird like American naturalism or something. I forget exactly what the actual terminology was, but it was basically a logistically speaking, it was essentially sovereign citizenry bullshit is what it was, dude. And I'm gonna call it like a fucking is at this point. And I'm sorry, but like the second you start shit talking the U.S. Constitution and the founding of this country, like that's when I will personally go founding father on your ass at that point, dude. And I mean that seriously. Like I'll fucking go like Thomas Jefferson, Ben Franklin, George Washington, fucking straight up ass whooping at that point. Basically, is what it is, dude. Um, and the thing is, when you talk to a lot of these people like that have fallen into that kind of category of like this sovereign citizenry or like alternate natural medicine stuff, whatever you want to call it at that point, though, because it's a bunch of different stuff. It's all sort of coalesces into the same thing as what it is. And the big thing of it is that you basically have people that will fall into this category where they just sound like they're in a cult, is what it is, dude. Honestly, and it's not even like they're the cult leader of the cult; they're just like some random follower of the cult at that point. And I think that's the biggest problem with these kind of individuals, is what it is. And so they'll basically go on to panels, act like they're the smartest person on the panel or whatever the case be, and then sit there and talk over everybody instead of actually answering simple questions, what it is. And that's a big thing going back to, that panel a few months ago, back in 2022 there, um, on Honda's channel that night. We were sitting there for, it was myself, NEA, Honda, uh, the man that now calls himself Soulless Ginger Firearms from Texas, and I think Leo was there, and I can't remember who else. I feel like there was like 6 or 7 of us that night, and then this dude jumped on. This East Coast Cory guy jumped on, and basically took over the panel for the next hour, like talking about all kinds. Like, and obviously at the time, he had it was like a few days later, where he was supposed to have like some kind of weird like conference thing going on, where it was supposed to be like 40 plus speakers and like alternative, views on stuff is what it was essentially. And that was cool and everything. And it's cool. You want to plug yourself for 5-10 minutes, whatever, dude. But don't be sitting there for the next like hour taking over the fucking panel. What it is. And that was the thing. NEA basically straight up asked him the question because it was him basically saying about like some like anarcho society or whatever the case be, where you could have like this like non-violent utopia, essentially is what it was. And but yet would never actually answer the question of like how do you stop people and human nature from basically becoming violent and fucking up your perfect utopia is what it is. And the guy had no answer to that. It's basically his answer was basically watch these dozens and dozens of videos or hundreds of videos that I have on this channel is what it is. Instead of just being like, okay, you're asking me the simple question right now. Here's the answer to that. Because that's the problem. These people don't have answers to that shit because they know that their fucking fairy tale is just that, dude. It's never gonna work out, is what it is. It's just gonna be literally a unicorn, is what it'll be. A non-existent mythical creature is what it is, and that's the entire point of it all. Now, granted, I'm not going to sit here and say that, and even going, to talk about people like Tim Pool and stuff like that who've talked about this in the past when it comes to different things. And you have individuals like Tim Pool who will go on, different rants and stuff like that and discuss like, basically communism or socialism and stuff like that at small scales, which can be achieved at small scales of like anywhere from like 3 to 5 people. But every time you add in another person, then you basically have, one more person to add to that mixture. And that's when your shit starts to break up, is what it is. So, anyway. And we actually have Mr. Soulless Ginger Firearms himself joining us now.
What's up?
Not much. I was just basically going over the gist of what happened in that previous panel a few months back now.
You say no more. I know exactly what you're talking about. Kind of had a little continuation a few minutes ago.
Yeah, I know. I was looking at the conversation right now.
Apparently, we're just a bunch of lefties that are
I saw
uneducated.
that. I saw that.
We're just lefties that are uneducated.
Yeah, that seems that's like one step away from being called a dumb redneck hick.
Hey, I've been called that before. I've been called
I
worse.
have too. I have to. Actually, here's a funny story for you. So this is back when I used to play Magic the Gathering, and I was at the card shop one day, and it was this kid from that area or whatever, and we were discussing. I was discussing specifically border security with him at the time, and this was back in like probably like 2018, 2019, somewhere in there, and we were discussing. This is why like it was basically myself and the shop owner and then some other guy basically discussing about like why border security is like important and stuff like that, and why we should have a border wall and everything. And this guy's like, "You're just a dumb hick from, you're just a dumb hillbilly redneck or something like that." I forget how he put it exactly, but it was like, "Thank you." Like I was like, "That's your best insult, dude? Like, come on, you can do better than that." So yeah, he was that guy was a fucking nut though. I swear to God, he was the Antifa under a few different masks at that time in history.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, that's the problem with them young college kids like that are in their early mid-20s is what it is. So
Well, that's like people underestimate me all the time. I've dealt with that all my life,
mhm.
and and it doesn't bother me at all. I find it hilarious. When people rag on me for how I pronounce words, even though I know the correct pronunciation. It's just I'm a Texan. I pronounce things country. Like instead of saying oil, it's oil. You know, not that I'm uneducated. It's just how I prefer to speak.
Yeah, it's just the accent.
Exactly. I mean, I went to college. I was in college my last 2 years of high school. Went maintained a 4.0. Was on the dean's list, the Dashiell dean's list. So it's not that I'm uneducated.
Yeah. Well, and I think the biggest issue comes down to being the fact that, like I was saying before you got here, you have these individuals that are under the age of 25 nowadays, and they act like they want to be the smartest person in the room. When in reality, it might be book smarts, it might be something else for that matter, but it's not actual intellectual or like common sense. I guess is the best way to describe it that they have. And they'll say a bunch of big words, but it doesn't mean anything. Is what it is.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's the biggest problem with a lot of this stuff. You have individuals out there that'll do that kind of stuff all the time, and then they wonder why people get pissed off at them. And it's like, dude, you're saying the same thing in 20 different ways, but you're still not answering the actual question at hand, which is how are you going to prevent this from being a violent society at some point?
Yep. And hey, I even kind of pointed that out too again earlier, and there was really no comeback. You know what I mean?
Well, that's the problem, and it's and that's the thing. I've seen personally, as people don't maybe not know this at this point, but I'll reiterate it because I obviously had a different name on this channel before. Had a falling out with some guys in this community and stuff like that, and it was basically a whole issue there over the last year or so, about 9 months ago or so it happened. And the thing was, there was at one point in history back in around 2019, 2020, I was seriously considering a political run for Ohio governor at the time. And the guy that I had basically discussed stuff with, he was very much a constitutionalist. He's the reason why I'm a constitutionalist to this day, actually, because he got, basically inspired me into, a constitutionalist mindset is what it was. And unfortunately, I hate to say it, like he's kind of gone the deep end at this point, but he's kind of gone this weird, like almost Buddhist monk kind of mentality now. And it's just very odd because it's like what happened to the guy that I met a couple of years ago that was
Hmm.
like this full blown, descendant, literally descendant of George Washington is what he claimed to be. And I'm like, what the fuck happened to that guy?
Right.
And yeah, it's crazy. I'm not saying he's not still a good dude, but yeah, he's definitely gone like this weird turn of his life, I guess is the best way to describe it. And I feel like that's the way with some of these people, like, you know, East Coast Cory is what it is. You have these individuals that will basically go down that mindset or that theorem or whatever the case be, and it's not 100% a cult, but it's cult mentality like, to where they don't actually see themselves in that kind of a mentality, and so they can't actually get out of that mentality is what it is.
Hmm. Jesus. Hey, go look at the bottom of the message board that you were looking at a while ago with our conversation.
All right. Uh, the very bottom or just like a little bit up?
Well, one up where the link is. You'll see it.
Okay.
I didn't click on it, but I'm just it was just dropped in
Jesus
there.
Christ.
Yeah, yeah. See what I mean?
Yeah, yeah.
Jesus Christ, dude. How dare you? Jesus, man.
$10 for a paperback copy, apparently.
Yeah, but did you see what it?
Oh yeah, no, I saw what the title of it was.
Well, not just that, but it's federal accepting Federal Reserve notes.
Yeah. Yep.
Jesus.
For those interested in what we're actually discussing, I'm gonna go ahead and grab the link here. East Coast Cory apparently wrote this book called "Slavery Gone for Good: Out of Cure for Humankind, Modern Abolitionism. Slavery still exists, and you are always allowing it." Jesus. Yeah. Um.
I don't know what to say.
Yeah. I don't either. Jesus. That's some crazy shit for sure. Mind you, this is obviously we're you know saying this because this is the same guy who is talking about basically being against government and against government currency and everything else like that. So very
I
hypocritical
mean,
for sure.
to be fair, some of the stuff he was saying, made sense, and
Yes, yes, it did.
I understood what he was
Oh, holy shit!
attempting to get at, maybe in a long fucking roundabout way.
It's not good.
But he just it was it's more like a fantasy la land that
Uh huh.
he's living in with the
I said,
ideology, because just education alone isn't gonna be an answer or a cure or end all be all, because you
there's
have to take in the fact of human nature that it may work for a little bit, but how do you sustain that
mhm,
without violence?
yeah, there was an ambulance just went flying up my road a minute ago.
Oh, is that what that was?
Yeah, I don't know where it went to, but it went flying up my road for sure.
Hmm.
So that's not good.
But I know we've mentioned all this in the past before, but it's just it keeps getting brought up, and I even mentioned to him the same thing because a person wanted to converse, and I basically said, "What's the point?"
Yeah. Well, and that's what it is and that's the thing. You're just going to get into that roundabout thing again, where it's like, okay, this is what you believe, and this is what the real truth is. What it is.
Well, like I mentioned, it would just end up uh, whoever joined
Mm-hmm.
would be overtalked,
Mm-hmm.
wouldn't listen to our point of view, and would just What's the point?
Well, and that's the thing a lot of people don't like about religious people either, because you can get into that whole debate as well when you have somebody that's like so hardcore religious that they have, that whole like stand of religion to basically fall back to is what it is. And so they won't hear like an object point of view because of that. And unfortunately, that ends up being in a situation now where you have that kind of stuff going on. And I think that's exactly what it is with this guy as well. It's like a situation like that is what it is.
Mm-hmm.
They just don't want to see the object point of view is what it is. And that thing is like, you know, being the fact that we're now in 2023, anyone that does not own a firearm currently, I find to be very suspicious, just because of the fact that it's like you're not actually willing to take personal responsibility for your own safety.
Well, yeah, because like the old adage, when seconds count, the police and help is
Minutes away.
minutes away. But in some cases, like us, it's
Mm.
close to an hour or more.
Yeah, it was at least the night that my house was robbed, and we finally called them up and we're like, "Hey, we need you guys to get out here immediately," or whatever. It took them like 45 minutes to get out here still.
I mean, exactly. That's my point. You are the you're your own first responder.
Hmm.
You are your own. You should be your own protector and provider. And in this day and age, like how like a lot of people like cops and stuff. Oh, in the times we live in, and the days we live in, it's true because it's getting fucking ridiculously dangerous.
Hmm.
Everything's fucking up in the air. Shit's just going south fast. The economy, fucking inflation's through the roof.
Hmm.
Recession, depression on the horizon,
Yep.
possible war, just anarchy within our borders. If you don't have a means to protect yourself, how do you expect to protect your loved ones?
Exactly. And then not only
Because,
that, but then you also have the government infighting and everything else like that now.
or what?
Government infighting at both state and federal levels,
Yeah.
which, like obviously we know McCarthy got the speakership now, unfortunately. But at least it took them, 5, 6 days and 15 rounds to do it, is what it was. And people finally got, concessions, and finally were able to speak their minds and be like, this is why this is bullshit. And this is how you're fucking over the American taxpayer and stuff like that.
I got a quick question for you. I just thought about this.
Hmm,
Um, it's kind of a change topic.
it's fine.
We can circle back, but
Yeah.
did you watch the Guns and Gadgets
The,
video put out today?
the one about how this is all good for the Second Amendment and stuff like that.
Pretty much, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I watched the majority of it.
Do you think he's onto something, or do you
Uh,
think he's just
maybe.
being too hopeful?
Maybe. Because the thing is, like, I know for, like, this is what I've been saying all week, really, with the grandstands and stuff, is my whole thing is you can have McCarthy or whoever else say what they're going to say to get into power. Unless you have a binding contract, it don't mean jack shit. And if they were going to vote for that dude legitimately, it needed to be a binding contract
Yep.
to not only throw him out of the speakership, but throw him out of the fucking Congress entirely at that point then. And I don't think they got that. I think they got a bunch of oral agreements is what it was, and I don't think that's a good idea,
Yeah, they
honestly.
should not have finally voted until everything was. I mean, that you do that in regular life. Like if you make a transaction with somebody, private sale, you get a bill of sale. You get some
Hmm.
kind of documentation to prove that there was a transaction made.
Yep.
If you have anything legal, that's why you get a notary republic to stamp your paper to make it a federal document.
Yeah.
Or, I mean, a legal document. But so, especially in politics, you have to trust everyone with a grain of salt.
Yep.
They're all fucking snakes in the grass waiting to attack at any given moment for any fucking reason. So if you don't have that in writing, you done fucked up.
Yeah, especially Marjorie Taylor Greene. She was one of the first to concede very quickly. A lot of people called her out on that shit because she just fucking, yeah. Although to be fair, I remember it was a roll call, probably about a year or so ago now, maybe a year and a half now. He and I were discussing some stuff in one of Guns and Barbecue's back chats before, and I brought up Marjorie Taylor Greene, and at the time I was like, yeah, she seems like a pretty good person or whatever the case be. And he's like, nah, bro, she is a complete piece of shit, and like, this is how she's actually like a multi-millionaire real estate agent person or whatever. And I was like, oh, really? And yeah, it was a bunch of information I had not known at that point in time in history. And then, of course, when she first ran for Congress, she did what a lot of people will do, which is they know they can't win in their own congressional district, so they'll go to some other congressional district and either buy property or just run in that congressional district is what it is, and be able to get in then. And it's something that pissed me off quite a bit, honestly, since then. Throughout America, because I've seen that shit here in Ohio as well. You've had people that they know that they can't win in the Cleveland, Ohio area for that specific district up there because Marcy Kaptur's held that shit for like 40 something years now, is what it is, longer than I've been alive, obviously. And so they'll be Republican people or whatever, and they'll be like, oh, we're going to go down to Canton, Ohio, and run a primary there or whatever the case be, which is what Madison Jessica Gilbert won, who should be a congresswoman right now, but was obviously cheated by Amelia Strong Sykes, who actually became a federal congresswoman and was finally sworn in here the last day or so. And yeah, she is a fucking. If it comes out in like 2 days that she's part of the squad now, I would not be surprised when it came to Sykes, because she is a raging black supremacist, anti-gun, baby-killing piece of shit. And yeah, I fucking hate her guts so much at this point. Her entire family's a bunch of scumbags. Her dad's been in the Ohio General Assembly for the better part of like pretty much 35, 40 years now. Her mom's been in there for a good 15, 20 over the years, and then she took over their seat is what it was. It's basically like a family lineage seat, if you don't want to call it that, which is ridiculous. And yeah, it's just exactly what we need term limits at every level respected at this point. But the thing was, when it came to that specific primary with Gilbert and everybody else, though, you had like 3 or 4 people coming down from Cleveland and being like, oh, I want to run in this seat now or whatever. And it's like, dude, go back up to Cleveland and run up there and actually defeat Marcy Kaptur in a general election is what it is. Like, don't sit there and call that a blue district. Like, flip it fucking red, for God's sakes, or flip it fucking independent, for God's sakes. But that's the problem. It would take too much money and be too hard for them to do it now. And they just want to do the lazy way out is what it is. And the sad part is, it's like you're running a congressional district, you can't even vote in yourself if that be the case. So what the hell? And you expect to have people vote for you because you supposedly represent them when you're not even living in the district you're running for? It makes no logical sense to me.
That is fucked up. If you are running for a district, it should be mandatory that you live and reside permanently in that fucking district.
I would say at least for 2 years previous to the election cycle as well.
Exactly. Yep. Because you can't just move to an area and say, "Oh, I live here," or just what.
That's why everybody was calling Dr. Oz a carpetbagger there in Pennsylvania, because he literally bought a house in PA like a year before the election cycle, and then was like, "Oh yeah, I'm a Pennsylvania resident." It's like, no, you're not. You're just some dude that came here. Although to be fair, Fetterman's kind of the same way though. He was, I think he was an outsider from a different state, if I'm not mistaken, and then he came to Pennsylvania as like a teenager or something. So, and then of course his parents gave him a bunch of money because they were all rich. But yeah, I don't know. It's very interesting. And then, obviously this week we had a huge shakeup here at the Ohio State House, and I'm probably going to be fighting for gun rights the next year now because of all this shit. You had Jason Stevens, who pretty much ousted himself as a rhino at this point, deciding to go talk to Allison Russo and every single Democrat in our state house and basically get all Democrats to back him for the speakership. and screw over what would have been the most pro 2A team of Derek Marin and a bunch of other people as speaker
Hmm.
and House leadership, and it just fucking pisses me off. Like knowing what could have been, like we could have had legitimately had Marin gotten in, had he made Wiggum like second in command or third in command, whatever it was, and a couple other people on that list, we would have been able to get through a better version of constitutional carry, a better version of stand your ground, and Second Amendment sanctuary stuff probably in the next 3 to 4 months. Now we're going to be lucky if we can get anything through at this point.
Right. McCarthy, he's actually technically a Republican out of California, right?
Yeah, he's Republican. I forget exactly where his district resides there in California
I mean, he's a
because they
fucking
do they make them so like that's the problem, and it's and this is the thing people don't realize. Like, if you were to split California into two different states right now, there 100% is a very red part of California that is actual Republican
Oh
based.
yeah, most of the North is.
The problem is it's shitholes like LA and San Francisco and stuff like that that
Hmm.
are definitely
The
Democrat hell
controlling
pockets.
factors,
And that's the problem. That's why you have 53 districts in that state right now instead of like 10.
which it should be. Yeah.
Actually, it should be like 5 in every state is what it should be. Honestly, I've talked about that in the last couple of days as well. I would love to see that happen right now. Honestly, you have everybody go down to 5. You have one as the capital because obviously state capital that should be given a 1 at that point.
If
And
we could
then
actually break California up into two states, have North California and South California,
mhm.
then I would most definitely go visit North California.
You mean the
Fuck
red side
South
of California?
Huh?
You mean the red side of California?
Exactly. Well,
Yeah.
plus it's the weather up there is a little more desirable because
Well, the issue now becomes because they've infected other states like Oregon and Washington State and stuff like that. Now you sort of have like the leftism up and down and everything else like that. So it's basically on all sides now, which is kind of sad in of itself there. But yeah, I think my biggest thing is though is if we were to do it right, honestly, you don't need a 435 member Congress right now. You should have 250 members, is what it is. Everybody gets 5. You have 1 in every state capital as one of the congressional seats, and then you have the other 4 in various rural areas. And obviously, if a state has more than one, major city in it, or whatever the case be, they just fight in like some weird like jungle primary / ranked choice voting is what it would be then. And then that one will basically control what would be the capital, essentially, is what it is. So, but yeah, it would definitely be like an 80-20 split for how our country should be. It should be an actual constitutional republic, not just, what they want to call a democracy or essentially what they want to be an oligarchy is what it actually is at this point. And unfortunately, that's what it is right now. It's them trying to create this oligarchical society under some weird ass fucking rules changes and everything else like that. In reality, it needs to be we the people represented truly by an actual representative, not just tax without representation at this point, which is what I feel like I am at this point, honestly. The guy that represents me currently, I didn't vote for him. I won't vote for him because he's been a fucking rhino for decades, is what it is in Congress.
yeah, I I wish to God we could just successfully drain the swamp and just restart over. Just hit the reset button.
I think the only way it's ever going to happen, honestly, it would have to be a situation where you have to have everybody be forced to resign on the spot and you just start completely fresh at that point.
Hmm.
And that's never going to happen without a violent revolution, unfortunately.
So, what I sent you privately the other day, and you kind of cooperated with that other video. Have you heard any more about that?
The court case thing.
Yeah, about possibly.
No, no, I haven't. That's like I don't know if they're just suppressing it or what it is going on there. It's very weird. I have no
That is
idea what's
kind
going
of
on
weird
there.
because I saw that, and then you found the other one, which was essentially the same thing but two different videos.
Yeah, as far as I'm aware, it was supposed to be like on a possible docket to be reviewed on the 6th, but I don't think it actually was on the 6th. Like it was just there to be them possibly pick it up or whatever the case. I don't think it ever did or not. I don't think it did. So I could easily see it being something where you have that kind of a deal end up with people basically doing what needs to be done and making it happen. But the problem is right now is, who's actually going to cover it then? Like
Mm-hmm.
it might be alternate media covering it for all we know. But even them, it's like, are they even going to be able to find it to cover it is what it is. So yeah, I
Mm-hmm.
could definitely see it be like some kind of swept under the rug kind of deal at this point in history, especially if you're talking about almost all of Congress basically being essentially indicted for the crimes they've committed already at this point in history.
Yeah, but would it be awesome though if that could be fast tracked to happen
Yes, it
and
would
have
be.
all parties mentioned ousted?
Oh, fuck yeah. And that's the thing. And again,
And
like that's,
if
you
that
know,
happened, would we have to hold a special election, or
so
would it revert back to who was previously in
this
place?
is the thing. You
What's
would
up, Bjorn?
essentially have, and I'm going to go ahead and turn my camera on for a minute to talk about this because I definitely need to be seen to actually discuss this next
Are you
topic
good? Yeah.
here. So the big thing is when you're actually talking about the possibility of almost all members of Congress being ousted from power right now, you have to have it would be first of all it'd be a first of its kind case because
Mm-hmm.
it's never happened before in history, as far as I'm aware, anyway. I mean, there might be some kind of precedent out there somewhere where it was like our founding fathers' time period, early 1800s or something like that, where maybe it was like pre-Civil War or around the time of Civil
But
War, like
not
everybody was
modern.
kicked out or whatever the case be, and it was basically disappeared from history at that point. But yeah, there's no actual, as far as I'm aware, evidence on the books right now that shows that this would be happening previously in any part of history at this point. And
Mm-hmm.
so what you ended up having was you would have a first of its kind case, and I don't even think it would be special elections at that point. You would have a complete restructuring of our country entirely because if it was to be special elections, it would have to be like governors at that point all approving and being like, okay, we now need to have like 14 seats filled or something like that, or however many you have in your state that would be ousted at that point.
Yeah, because it would be what, like 388 under them.
Yeah, it would be 388 of 435, so you'd have essentially like 50 something people right now.
Mm-hmm.
That being said, though, if it was to have those 50 something people still in office, it could be a situation where they would basically be like, because this is a first of its kind of thing, we now dictate what actually happens with like a new election kind of thing. And that would be kind of like, I think that would create a civil war on the spot right there, honestly, because it would be like, oh, what do you mean you control this shit? And like, nah, bro, that's we the fucking people controlling this shit.
Yep.
So
Yeah, that's why I was curious because
yeah, I think
what would
any way it
happen if?
goes down, it would be it would definitely be anarchy for sure.
Well, yeah, but who would have to step up? I mean, who would step up to assume the mantle temporarily or permanently until?
So the thing is, I mean, if we look at logistically what's speaking right now, what you have, because obviously, if this court case were to proceed, if it were to oust Biden and Kamala, etc., you would essentially take out their entire line of succession as well, because it would prove that they
Exactly.
were actually cheaters at that point. The
Exactly.
only person who would be legitimately in line of succession at that point would be the person who would be, because basically the way the line of succession goes right now would be president, vice president, speaker of the house, I believe it is um, Senate president, and then it's like speaker pro tempore or whatever, which I think is held by a Republican. I want to say it was Chuck Grassley last I heard, but I don't know if they changed it since then or not. And the thing is, if he would be one of the ones that stays in, that's what it would actually revert to. It would revert to that person as president temporarily. Otherwise, if it's not that person, then it basically continues to go down to a line of succession, like way, 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 way far down. And you would essentially have like designated survivor
I was
type of
just going to
timelines,
say
what it would
that.
be.
Yeah.
And that to me is the scariest thought of all right now, because it's like, okay, you have like 57th in line who didn't get ousted from power is now president of the United States without any kind of election cycle. And I'm just like, yeah, I don't think that's gonna fall well with any American dude.
Right?
And that's the thing. Like
But
I've even
they
talked about
wouldn't
that
even be
before.
qualified.
Well, I've even talked about that before here in Ohio because when Larry Householder, who was the ex-Speaker of the House here, went down for bribery scandals a couple years ago, you should have seen Governor DeWine, Lieutenant Governor Husted, Secretary of State Frank LaRose, and a few other people go down with him, as well as like most of our General Assembly at that point, because they were all involved in the scandal and the money and kickbacks and everything else like that from bribes. The thing was, if that were to happen, it would basically become a situation then of, okay, who's next in line? And it would basically be down to like fourth, fifth, sixth person in line, which would either be the treasurer or the auditor of the state. And I've even told people that before. I was like, you know, I was talking to my neighbor guy one time about it, and we were like, at that point, would we just have a new governor's race because we're not putting up with this shit? Because who's to say this person is corrupt as well? And he's like, yeah, if you're going down to like fifth or sixth in line, like you have to have a new governor's race at that point. So I think that's what would happen. Honestly, it would just spark a new presidential race, like in some weird year. Then if that be the case, then and it would
Yeah.
be the same thing. It would be the same thing across the board. Then you'd have people. You would basically have people in the streets protesting and demanding, like, we demand new representation. Like, this is bullshit. We have to have special elections. And the story, and it would essentially go back to the will of the people. I think is what would happen there. Now, granted, if that became violent, who's to say? Probably. But if it doesn't become violent, if it was to just be, everybody's like cool or whatever the case be, we might be able to be good as a society then. I don't know. It's hard to say.
Well, sorry, trying to have a snack. Well, most of us would probably be, fine and welcoming of the change. But there's always going to be those leftist fucking shitheads that are always going to have to keep everything divided and aren't happy with anything that ever happened. Even if they slightly get their way, they're still not happy. So it would still be mass anarchy. There's no way around that. It would be interesting though to see what would transpire if said event were to happen.
And that's exactly why you have Hollywood that'll always write, various stories and shows on these kind of topics because of that fact. And it'll be like, oh, this is how this will play out or whatever the case be.
Mm-hmm.
So, I don't know. I remember watching part of the first season of Designated Survivor. I think I got to the point where it was like the other guy who had set stuff up or whatever was like, oh, I'm actually like more succession in line or whatever here. And then I just stopped watching because I was like, this is stupid.
Well, it's actually a good show.
Yeah, well, the problem was, I think the issue with that kind of series is it needs to be like marathon format.
Yeah.
And I was trying to watch it week to week, and it just became stupid because of that. Because it's like I forgot what happened the previous week. That's why I'm kind of to the point right now of like, I just think I'm gonna wait for like the 1923 show to come out and like watch it as like a big block or whatever now, instead of watching it week to week.
Yeah, there's hardly any shows anymore that I watch week to week. I always let it build up. Either several episodes or let the whole season come out before I watch it. Because I hate that week to week shit.
Yeah, I would say with that series, like the first 3 could be binged very easily together as one. But
the last one I did that with was the House of Dragons. And like you said, there was shit that I forgot that happened a week ago.
Then you had to go back and rewatch the previous episode, and you're like, damn it.
Mm-hmm. So, yeah.
There was like so much incest in those series, though. It wasn't even funny.
Oh, God, yes. And both of them. Game of Thrones and House of Dragons.
And I understand that, obviously, from the prospect of where George R.R. Martin was coming from, it's like, oh, this is just, historical English history or whatever the case be of like these oligarchical families that wanted to just keep power in the family and just fucked in the family is what it was then.
Oh, that's definitely happened out through history.
Which is exactly what unfortunately these people want nowadays in our constitutional republic. They just want it to be an oligarchy of their weird kings and queens wealth kind of crap when that's not.
Well, the king and queens in England don't fucking roll jack shit. They're just
Yeah.
a face for the system.
Well, it's just like how technically, if you want to get into real talk right now, what is it, King Charles now? He's technically the ruler of Canada and like 20 other countries in name only.
Technically, but
Yeah.
he
If
doesn't.
he wanted to, he could call in the chips and be like, nah, I'm sending my own people here to be prime minister now or whatever.
That wouldn't be a bad thing, especially in Canada. If they could oust that piece of shit there, Fidel Castro's son.
Yeah, Justin. The problem is, though, I mean, would it be worse or would it be better, though, if they were like, nah, we're taking back over or whatever? I think it'd be worse, honestly, because it'd be just some appointee then if that'd be the case.
Honestly, I hate to say it, but how much worse could it honestly be in Canada? It's already
Uh,
fucking bad.
I don't know. I mean,
Trudeau's looking at third party members to fucking go door to door and confiscate all the guns that are in the civilian hands.
yeah, it doesn't surprise me. I don't know. We should have just taken over Canada like 100 years ago when we had a chance.
Right? Just annexed it in, made it United States.
I mean, to be fair, I've talked about this behind. I'll talk about it right now, actually. If I actually do become governor of Ohio in 2026, one of my first acts as governor would be to lay out a plan to some people in Michigan, Indiana, and part of Pennsylvania. And basically, it would be their vote decides if they want to become part of the Greater Ohio Territories or not.
Mm-hmm.
And they would all be covered under constitutional care and everything else like that. So,
You would forget about all us little peons.
nah, I'd be a benevolent dictator for sure.
Your lord, your lord governor, your lord governor, Ohio patriot.
Yeah.
Please,
Nah,
sir, may I have some more?
no, I've made the joke before, like like obviously, and that's the thing. Like you look at these people like McCarthy and stuff that want the power that don't deserve the power, and that's the thing. Like, do I even want to become a politician at this point, or really a civil servant is what it would actually be? Because I'm not a fucking politician. I never will be.
Well,
And
how does that saying go? Uh, the people that seek power don't deserve it, but the ones that don't seek it deserve it.
something like that, yeah.
Something like that.
And that's the thing. Like, it's not even that I want any of that power. It's just like I just want the corruption gone on my fucking state is what it is, and that's the best way to do it.
Yeah.
So, and I
It'd
think it's
be
the
a
same way with
constant
Michigan and
uphill
everything else like
battle,
that.
though.
Oh yeah, it would be. I know exactly where I'd be attacked from the first go around right now, and it's the videos that were made up against me already. So
You would end up taking one step forward and then two steps back, and one step forward and two steps back.
I would fight like the devil, though, is what it is. Actually, technically, I'd fight like a guardian angel against the devils. Is what it would be. So, but yeah, the only good thing that happened this week was that ass clown Joe Blystone finally got charged with a bunch of fines and stuff. I can't believe they haven't criminally investigated him at this point though for his stuff that he's pulled there.
What about Dr. Ouchie?
Eh.
I heard, since he's not in that position anymore,
Mm-hmm.
that he was fixing to get indicted on all kinds of fucking charges.
Yeah, they can say that as much as they will, though, but it doesn't make it the truth until it actually happens.
Well, I know that, but I'm just bringing that topic up.
Yeah. Actually, it's funny that you mentioned that now because going back to something I was talking about, I don't know, 10, 15 minutes back now, Larry Householder, who was the ex-Speaker of the House here, who was one of the first member in like 60 years or something like that, kicked out by both parties because of corruption.
Damn.
He is about to be finally indicted and go to prison now. And
good.
Both the state attorney general Dave Yost and one of the ex state reps Kyle Kellner, who was an anti-gun douchebag and fucked us on gun stuff for like a decade almost, were both subpoenaed to testify in his trial. And Kellner specifically was like, I look forward to it because I was one of the people that was against HB6 to begin with and actually voted against it at the time. And people were like, I'm going to threaten you until you do vote for it, bro. Supposedly, according to him anyway. Like, Householder apparently did that, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
What's interesting and going back to the whole thing with DeWine and stuff like that at the time, him and Husted should have been indicted as well because it took campaign money from the companies that were behind HB6 is what it was. And it was ironic because pretty much the day that Householder was indicted or arrested for federal indictment, whatever you want to call it there, it was supposed to be like the next day or 2 days later, he was supposed to be bringing the best version of Stand Your Ground to the Ohio State House.
Really?
Yeah. So it's very fucking convenient that you have like the dude being arrested within like a day or two of bringing like super pro 2A gun legislation into the chambers for votes. It doesn't surprise me though, and that's unfortunate. And that's the one thing that scares the shit out of me right now with Jason Stevens basically getting on the downside in this state house because he, as the current Speaker of the House, has the ability to decide what goes to House floor votes or committees at all for that matter, and what basically gets killed before committees would even happen.
Yep.
And no one should have that much power, is what it is.
Kind of like Pelosi, right?
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. What was it? Guns and Gadgets was the one talking about it, where he was saying some stuff about how Pelosi did a bunch of stuff on her own, and now it's back to what it should have been always.
Well, that was the agreement to get McCarthy in.
Yeah,
was
exactly.
that he would agree that would be the first thing that would go.
Let's hope so. Let's hope so.
That, and along with fuck, I can't remember how it was worded, but it was basically like not one party vote.
One member motion is what it is.
Yes, exactly. One member motion. Thank you.
Yeah,
couldn't remember how it was worded.
I'm trying to look up. There was an article I was reading yesterday about it that said some stuff. I'm trying to see if I can find it again here.
Did you hear about the back to what I was talking about, Dr. Ouchie, that there was apparently a group of doctors that were promoting, all the bullshit
on Twitter, and they don't exist?
Yeah, and they're actually bots.
Yeah, that doesn't surprise me at all, man.
It was like I don't remember how many it was, but it
was like 6 or 8 or something like that.
Yeah, it was just a group of supposed doctors that turned out to be bots.
Yeah. They were also pushing like a huge like trans agenda too, if I'm not mistaken, as well.
Oh yeah, they're pushing it all.
Which is like, I don't know. And that's one thing people have talked about in the past few years, even like how you'll have these tech monopolies now that'll have like larger than old school king status and stuff like that because it's more subjects and stuff essentially as users now than they would ever have back in 12th, 14th century, whatever it was.
Mm-hmm.
It's a scary situation, and that's the thing. That's why I personally do not like Section 230 at all right now. Like, there is no reason for anybody to have that much power and be able to censor users on
oh hell no,
the spot for a week, a month, a day, even for that matter. It's just like here about, I don't know, a month and a half ago or so, it was something that was on the site, specifically Facebook, for almost 9 days at that point. And they're like, oh no, now that breaks our fucking terms of service all of a sudden. Now you're banned for the next day. It's like, what? Shit's been here for over a week now.
I would love for a president to get in office that would limit the control and power of the government.
It's not even the president needing to do it. It's an actual Congress that needs to get off their fucking ass and do some shit to deal with it.
Well, true, but the president could force them to do it.
Yeah. I mean, they technically could exec order, but that wouldn't really be it would be more of a mandate exec order than it would be an actual, like, law at that point.
Right, yeah.
So, yeah, it's just, I don't know. Something needs to be done, for sure. And the thing is, like,
don't need all these 3-letter alphabet gangs
where, you know, a couple of them could do the jobs of all of them.
Mm-hmm. Well, and that's the thing. Like, I mean, what was it? The Department of Homeland Security existed before 9/11, if I'm not mistaken. They just created the TSA after the fact, right?
I believe so.
Because I know that at one point ICE was actually, what do they call them now? Yeah, it was like Customs Enforcement or something. I think is what they used to be just be called or something. Or no, it was something else actually. God, I'm trying to think now. There was a movie back in the day, like 1990 or 91 or something like that had Cheech Marin in it. And I know that they called him something else back then. INS, that's what it was. Yeah,
Yes.
they were known as INS back then. And yeah, then of course they changed after 9/11 to now be known as ICE is what it is and stuff. And that's the thing. And that's the problem when you have, you know, instead of having like various things all scattered everywhere, now it's like, oh no, it's under this umbrella kind of thing now is what it is. Which if you're going to streamline the process, that makes sense. But the problem is they're not. They're just trying to expand the process and expand their, you know, own reach is what it is in most cases. Just like the ATF mandates that aren't even fucking law.
Yeah, that's bullshit. I mean, because nobody should be listening to them because they can't create laws. They
No.
can't create anything. Their whole fucking existence is to uphold the Constitution and the law, not create it.
Well, the
So
thing
whatever
is,
they're fucking saying about all these, you know, 80% lowers or triggers or stocks or whatever is bullshit.
well, the thing is, even Congress themselves couldn't create that kind of law because it would be unconstitutional.
Mm-hmm.
And they know that, and that's why they're trying to let these agencies do the shit for them. Is what it is. They're like, no, we don't want to get our hands dirty over here and be, you know, taking the Supreme Court about it. We're just going to let you guys do it arbitrarily and be, you know, finally taken to court at some point for it.
And what happened to any law created to go against the Second Amendment is null and void?
Are you talking about the shall not be infringed part, or are you talking about Marver versus Madison case?
Well, this shall not be infringed, but isn't there also wording elsewhere that
So
states?
specifically, the Second Amendment, as it's written, that is the only amendment that says shall not be infringed on it, and everything else like that.
Well,
Yes, there
yeah.
is another. There is a court case known as Marver versus Madison from 1803, and it specifically is, from my understanding from watching Nick Riquida's thing the other day, it's technically a judicial court case of the 1800s is what it was. But essentially what it was is it was two of our founding fathers coming together. One of them wanted to do some unconstitutional shit or whatever the case be. Another one's like, nah, that's fucking ridiculous. And it was taken before a Supreme Court back then, and they deemed it as unconstitutional at the time, whatever, and was like, this particular piece of legislation, because it is deemed unconstitutional, should be looked as if it was never written to begin with and it's just a blank page. Rikita himself was saying the other day that he didn't like that kind of stuff because it basically gives too much power to the court systems, which I think is kind of bullshit, honestly. And the whole thing of it is, it's like you need to have that kind of stuff to back up your actual constitutional rights, is what it is.
Mm-hmm.
And my thing is, and I think that's the biggest problem right now, is you have so many of these court cases being fought in various, you know, manners or whatever. It's like, no, you should be fighting them underneath that particular ruling, is what it is. Like you have a ruling that's like 220 years old right now. That's perfectly acceptable. Great ruling. Probably one of the best rulings in history, actually. It's like fight underneath that, man, and go from there. And if that doesn't work, then fight underneath something else. Would that be the case then? Now, granted, that being said, that I know that bump stock case they had the other day, that was one underneath something else entirely, if I'm not mistaken. It was a I'm trying to think now.
Yep. Now that bump stocks are legal again, what fucking difference does it make? Because the companies that made them are long out of business.
Well, that it does make sense now because those companies specifically, or the founders of those companies, whatever you want to call them, would have a case now to make a bunch of money, and
Well, yeah,
would just
they
be
could
like, "You
sue,
cost us money, give us money."
but what good is that going to do? Because that doesn't help we the people.
That
It
would just fat in their pockets because they could win a lawsuit for various reasons.
it doesn't, but it does. Because it doesn't help us in the way that you're thinking, because it doesn't help us from the fact that they be the ones making the money. However, it does help us because it sets a case precedent now that no, this is all bullshit to begin with.
Well,
And
true.
because of that, now you can have future lawsuits potentially against sitting governors and stuff like that. They're trying to do unconstitutional shit now and be
Are
able to
we going
make
to see
personal
another
injury stuff.
company pop? Are we going to see another company or two pop up that are going to make bump stocks or slide fire stocks? Because there was
Maybe.
two of those too.
Yeah, I'm trying to see if there's a. I know there's. I'm trying to see if they have the actual thing in this particular article where they're talking about the actual thing that it was
Which
fought under.
instead of fighting for those, what we should be doing is fighting to get the NFA gone so we could have SBRs and full autos and shit back.
Okay, here we go. Yeah, it said Fifth Circuit's decision can be appealed to the Supreme Court of the United States. At this time, no indication has been given on to whether or not it will be appealed to that higher court. It said Fifth Circuit's application of the rule of lenity could come into play in lawsuits against the anticipated ATF ban on stabilizer braces for AR pistols. It is presumed that the ATF stabilizer brace ban will give owners a set of amount of time to turn them in, after which time they will be considered to be in possession and have not. After which time those continue to possess them will be now committing a crime, which is absolute bullshit entirely.
Fuck yes, it is. Fuck you.
So, but yeah, that's what it was basically fought on, was a litany ruling. Yeah, here it said. It said additionally, Elrod explained that the court's majority found the ATF's bump stock ban violated the rule of litany by imposing criminal liability on people who had legally purchased a product against which there was no law. And that's exactly what it is with the pistol brace thing as well.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, I think we'll definitely see a bunch of interesting cases come about from this whole thing. And then, of course, you had.
I mean, it's still a win regardless, and I take that win.
Then you had that crazy shit out of Houston, Texas the other day.
Yeah, I saw that.
Criminal
I
got.
actually watched that earlier tonight.
As much I know a bunch of people like to give that active self-protection guy a bunch of shit. There's a bunch of things I've only found on that guy's channel, unfortunately. And he does give some good advice when it comes to certain things. And I feel like that might be what the dude who got the drop on this criminal was taking advice from, because he pretty much waited until just the right moment to yank his gun out and go for it. And be able to get the drop on this kid while he was trying to rob everybody is what it was. So, yeah, just crazy shit, man. Then I know there's a bunch of people on Reddit and other social media sites like that are like, that dude should be tried with manslaughter because he shot like 4 or 5 more times after the fact. And it's like, no, he just made sure the threat was completely neutralized.
Well, yeah, because from the video that I saw, which was a security camera far away, and it was, my point of view was small frame, so you couldn't really see the perp on the ground. Who's to say that he wasn't trying to take aim at him? And that's what it is you shoot until the threat is neutralized.
Yeah. Well, I mean, hell, it's funny to me because you have people that will say that kind of thing, because obviously the guy was like ding, 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 ding as he was getting up from the booth or whatever. And then he was approaching and continuing to fire. So it was like a momentary pause of him like getting up to like go and continue to get in the fight again.
And shit like that happens so fucking fast. All you're thinking is the bad guy I need to stop the bad guy.
And I remember there was a
round count,
or
anything like that, because it's so fucking fast. And I mean, you barely have time to formulate a thought other than
I have to stop the threat.
Well, there was a video I had watched a couple months ago, even, and it was some dude who was supposed to be like an anti-violence guy or something like that out of Maryland,
Mm-hmm.
who had pulled a knife on some chick and was basically a domestic dispute. The cops came rolling in. The one cop pulled out his service, I think it was a Glock, if I'm not mistaken, and he was just like, don't. Oh wait, I still have one in the chamber. Ding. It's like, and then proceeds to like drop the first mag and reloads again. And I'm just like, as he's saying, like, drop the knife with 15 holes in you already. And it's like, pretty sure he's dead, man.
Right.
But yeah, like
Because I've
if people
seen
want to get
plenty
into
of
some shit like
videos
that,
where
like get into that.
cops or even civilians, try to shoot to stop the threat, and the person, falls and is motionless,
Mm-hmm.
and then seconds later, a minute later, whatever, they get like second wind and they attack again.
Yeah.
And that's why they say, um, when you're involved in an active shooting like that, you shoot to stop the threat.
Yeah.
And that usually means so they can't get back up and try to harm you or anybody else.
Well, it's just like the same, like the old adage rule that people always bring up of like, oh, you only need like 3 or 4 rounds for a self defense encounter, or whatever the case be. It's like not anymore. Almost everyone I've seen in the past 3 years now, it's like almost a mag dump at this point.
Yeah, and there's like a video I saw the other day where this I don't remember where it was, but it was this black woman.
Mm-hmm.
She was heading home.
Oh yeah, I know what you're talking about.
And was followed by 2 other women in hoodies, and they walked up another flight of stairs, and she made it to her level and was walking. And she said that it was so quiet that she could hear if somebody were to open a door or to take some steps. And she didn't hear anything, and she was wondering where they went. And so that got her spidey senses going, and she, ended up, not feeling right about it. So she pulled out her self-defense tool, and good thing she did, because moments later, here comes those 2 people in hoodies running at her, which the lead runner had their own firearm, and she basically knocked their dick in the dirt, essentially. And she shot a volley of, I want to say, 10, 12 rounds,
Mm-hmm.
and only struck the person once, and it was
Yeah.
in the leg. And the whole adage, oh, shoot the bad guy in the leg. You don't have to kill him. Shoot him in the leg. That right there proved shooting him in the leg ain't gonna do a fucking bit of good, because that person got up, took off running while holding their gun behind them and shooting off rounds.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's just like the same one with it was over a decade ago now. It was a 12-year-old kid at the time, and was talking about grabbing like stepdad's Taurus PT 111 or whatever it was, or whatever they used to call the Millennium.
Yeah, the
Corpus
PT
GTCs and stuff like
111. Yeah.
And yeah, he was like, yeah, I shot at this dude 12 times as he was trying to steal a hamper full of our stuff, and it was the 12th round pierced the hamper or whatever. He was crying like a little baby.
Exactly. I remember that. Imagine if they were in a state where they had like a 10-round mag limit, or like some are saying, oh, they shouldn't have more than like 5 or 6 rounds. If you lived in a state like that and you were in a self-defense situation like that, and you go pop, 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 and you're out of bullets.
Mm-hmm.
The bad guy, all they would have to do is just, duck, take cover, whatever, instead of run off, and they could come back and attack you again, because you are under a fucking unconstitutional mag ban, and you're fucked. even if you had a spare mag, you drop that mag to put another 5 or 6 rounds or 10 rounds. By the time you're doing that, they could be coming back at you or shooting you. Where if you had a standard capacity mag of 15, 17, if you have a gun that takes 20, whatever, those are extra rounds that can mean life or death for you as a self-defense individual.
Or it's even like states like California, like this particular video right here, had the dude being a fake candy seller. Woman opens the door to buy some candy from him, and then three of his fucking buddies come rolling in with guns.
Yeah.
Just out of nowhere.
And see, me personally, because I've seen this, and this is on a uptick of crime where, more of this is happening.
Mm-hmm.
I've been like this for a long time anyways, because people suck. And when I answer my door, I always open it about an inch, and my foot, because I have a big fucking foot, is up against the door. So if they try to push, they're going to meet resistance because my foot's in the way.
Yeah.
But I open the door with one hand, but I have a pistol in the other because I'm not taking a chance with my family. So if something
Thankfully,
like that were to happen,
kind of hear through.
huh?
I have a door you can kind of hear through, and it has a pane of glass in it.
Mm-hmm.
So if they come up to our front door, I can just actually like crack a blind and be like, "What the fuck do you want?"
Oh yeah, I have a window right next to my front door, so I could literally raise the blinds and see who's out there, and crack that window and say the same thing without even touching the door. Whereas my old house, I didn't have that option, so that even then and before, I just got in the habit of opening the door just a little bit to converse with my foot in the way, because you just never know. And at my old house, I had a couple incidences where I thought I was about to have my front door kicked in and be burglarized, because I heard someone just all of a sudden out of nowhere just start banging repeatedly on my front door. And it was like, I want to say 11 o'clock or so. I was on a live chat of one of the other channels that we are on.
Yeah.
When it happened. And I had to go grab a long gun that had just a little bit more ass behind it in capacity, because I don't know what the fuck was going to happen. Turns out I think it was just kids fucking, or teenagers,
Ding dong dishing or whatever.
Exactly.
What do you think about 22 mag?
As what? As just a round or
Yeah,
self-defense?
just like a cartridge or whatever.
I don't mind it. I like 22 mag. I prefer it over 22 LR.
Yeah. I was looking at a site right now that has some on for sale, but it's like a lot of money for like not a lot of rounds.
Yeah. There's one that I frequent a lot that usually has a lot of good deals on ammo. And you can look up, through any caliber,
Yeah.
and it garners a list, or I mean, it formulates a list of sellers all over the U.S. And it just finds the best deals. That's like I've seen on popular name brand sites where they're selling ammo for 50 cents a round, or 40 something cents a round, or 60 cents a round still for like 9mm. And I'm like, why the fuck would you pay that when you could go to this site right here and get it for as low as 18 cents a round, sometimes even 17 point something cents a round?
Yeah.
Why would you do even hollow points? I looked up yesterday for someone who was inquiring, and they had it as low as I think 37 or 38 cents a round, where a certain site had it up to
Yeah.
50. Yeah, there's a rebate, but it's still 50 cents a round. I'm like, Jesus, man.
That's one thing
I
I wish I'd gotten into a Gila Hollow Points when they were still a good price back in the day.
mm-hmm.
Because I didn't even realize that they were being sold at a couple different stores, and I'm just like, damn it, there was one of those like right by me. I could have went and got some from them, but I never got a chance to. So, next, if you want to talk about bad parenting of the week, teacher in critical condition after being shot by 6-year-old student.
250 rounds of hollow points. Granted, they were reman, but still, they're hollow points for, oh my God, what was it? It was a ridiculously cheap price. Of course, I had little cost to shit because they were fucking like an hour and a half away from me. But yeah, I don't. It was. I think it was under $100 I paid for 250 rounds.
Yeah.
So there's places you could find cheaper ammo other than big box stores. Like I was trying to help a buddy out with trying to find some decent priced hollow points.
Yeah, I think this country's definitely getting bad. And you got fucking first graders shooting teachers now, apparently.
Oh, it's not getting bad. It's been bad. It's just
Yeah,
getting
I
a
know.
fucking hell lot worse.
Yeah,
And I
it's
heard
just
about that.
more
Where the
affected.
fuck did the 6-year-old student get a gun?
It does not say. What it did say was female teacher in Newport News, Virginia, is in critical condition for being shot Friday by 6-year-old student. Police Chief Steve Drew commented on the incident, saying this is not an accidental shooting. Individual 6-year-old student. He is being held in custody right now. We have been in contact with our Commonwealth attorney and some other entities to help us best get services to the young man. Teacher's conditions improved slightly. Superintendent said he was in shock. I am in awe and I'm disheartened about the situation. I cannot control access to weapons. My teachers cannot control access to weapons. Today, our students got a lesson in gun violence and what guns can do to disrupt not only our educational environment but also a family and a community.
Well, see, this is where I hate video games
Mm-hmm.
because video games give children and teenagers a false of reality.
Mm-hmm.
Because in games, you die, you just respawn, or
Yeah.
if you kill someone, they just respawn.
Yeah. Exactly.
They come back and everything, and they think that's how that is in real life,
Mm-hmm.
and they find out if because there's been several that have played video games where this has happened, and then they realize, oh shit, it's not like that. But yeah, I mean, video games are fine, but definitely, stuff like that. I mean, parents should monitor their children's video game access.
Yeah.
I wasn't allowed to play shit like that when I was growing up. Of course, when I was growing up, we didn't have fucking PlayStations.
Yeah.
We didn't have Xboxes. I mean, for God's sakes, I had an Atari.
Yep.
And then later on, after they already came out because they weren't cheap and I was poor, we finally got a fucking Nintendo. But my first game experience was a fucking Atari, which I
Yeah.
thought was shit, by the way. Pong was fucking amazing.
One of the first things that I also had an Atari. It was one of our friends gave it to us. Gave us that and a bunch of games with it. And then it wasn't until probably mid '90s when you had like Super Nintendo and everything else like that out is when we finally got a regular Nintendo.
Yeah, yeah. Because I mean, I had a Nintendo, then I had a Super Nintendo,
Yeah.
but it wasn't when they came out.
Now, yeah,
It was
we had a
either
Nintendo years
someone.
later,
Mm-hmm.
and then we never had Super Nintendo. We went straight to PS1, but that was like a few years after it had come out and prices had dropped and stuff.
Yeah, I would say mine when because I ended up with a PS1 too, and I had it for a long time. And
Or
I
no,
think we were able to get it either. It wasn't when it first dropped, but it was a couple months later, maybe a year max, that when we got a PS1, and because at that point we were not as poor, you know what I
mhm.
mean?
Yeah, I
And
just
that was
realized that
obviously when
between
I was a teenager.
between the Nintendo, I actually had a Sega Genesis at one point as a kid, and that was again something that was bought like secondhand or whatever.
Hmm.
And
I had a
then
Sega Saturn.
we had the PS1, and then it was a couple few years later when we had PS2, and then I think my brother on his own bought a PS3 after he wasn't working or
Honestly,
anything else like that.
I
Yeah,
don't think I don't think I've ever had a PS3 because I had a PS2. I still have my PS1 and PS2 games, but just no console. And I don't. Yeah, I think I skipped three, and I have a PS4 now that I've had for fucking God Almighty. I don't even know how. It's been probably close to 10 years. No, when did I get it? About 8 years ago. Whenever the fuck it came out, that special edition, or not special edition. It was one of those ones that if you bought the game, the console, you got a game and controller for free. Oh shit, we done lost Ohio. It is my chat now. I have overtaken thine, Ohio. What shall we do now? What's up, Bjorn? You still in the chat, man? You still out there in the chat land? I don't even know if anyone's viewing. I can't see that. You got any questions or anything? Just put them in the comment section.
I'm back.
Oh, there you are. Hey.
My internet just decided to take a shit on me all of a sudden.
Oh, that's good. I figured that.
Yeah, it's it's been working fine with this new computer, and then all of a sudden, like the other day, it started to go wonky again every so often. I don't know if the
It could
router's
just be
messed up or what the
weather.
hell's going on.
You got any wind around you right now?
Yeah, probably.
That right there alone could fuck with your internet service.
Yeah, because it'll go out
Do
like
you have fiber optic or is it satellite or what?
no, it's just cable internet,
Oh, okay. Yeah, fucking
Spectrum specifically.
now fuck yeah, that explains it right there.
Yeah,
Enough said. But yeah, wind could just mess with your dish and fuck with your signal.
yeah. Because it seems to go out. It'll go out for like 30 seconds or a minute, and it'll be right back on after that. Because I realized a couple times like all of a sudden my game will be like reconnect. Like I'll be on my phone playing the game, and it'll be like reconnecting, and I'm just like, wait, what the fuck? And I look at my computer, and it's like, yeah, it's out too. And I'm like, okay, it's not just, or it's a computer, and I look at my game, and I'm like, oh, okay, it's also the game then too. So it's like internet.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah, I gave an evil laugh when you dropped out and said it was my chat now. And what shall we do?
yeah. When is that Cocaine Bear movie supposed to be coming out?
Sometime this year, I think maybe summertime. It looks like it's gonna be funny. I have a feeling it's gonna be stupid and corny, but I
Mm-hmm.
think it's gonna be fun.
There was one I remember. It was like some like B/C list film back in the day. It was called Zam Beavers.
Yeah,
I don't ever remember watching it. I
the
never have. I need to
zombie.
watch it some play. Yeah, I need to watch it sometime or something. But it was supposed to be like zombie beavers or something like that, going after a bunch of college kids.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. But this cocaine bear is actually based loosely on a real life incident.
Yeah, it's embellished true events, is what it is.
Yes, because the bear did ingest cocaine.
Yeah, it just didn't go on a fucking killing spree.
Yeah, he didn't go. He didn't, I don't think he killed anyone. He fucked up some shit, and I think he ended up hurting maybe one or two people,
Mm-hmm.
but he didn't kill nobody.
Yeah,
And then all of a sudden, he just dropped dead of a heart attack because his heart exploded.
That makes sense. Especially if
But
you're
yeah,
gonna
the
ingest an
movie
entire
looks
kilo of
fucking.
cocaine.
The fucking movie looks funny. Like there's one part in the previews where the bear's sitting on his ass, picks up a kilo of coke, just shoves the entire thing in his mouth and swallows it, falls on his back and scoots a couple times to one of the guys that was there, like, "How you doing?"
Yeah.
And then like it kicks in and he just fucking gets up and tears the dude to pieces.
Yeah.
It was fucking hilarious. Or like when he shreds that one dude and he walks up to the dude's dismembered leg and does a bump off his leg.
Yeah.
I'm like, come on, man, that's that's funny as hell. What I'm really
Yeah.
looking forward to is hearing a couple of them. What is it today? The 8th?
Yeah.
Here in a week. On the 15th, Last of Us premieres. I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah. This should be a good series.
Because I had the game and I enjoyed the game. I'm actually probably going to start and pick it back up because I played it and I beat it. But I'm thinking about replaying it again just because the show's fixing to come out. And I think they did a Last of Us 2 video game as well. I don't remember. But it looks really good. I do kind of wish they would have got someone other than the fuck's his name?
The dude from Game of Thrones.
Yeah, he played Oberyn Martell on Game
Yeah.
of Thrones.
Yeah.
And also plays Mandalorian too, right?
I think so. I never really watched that show. I think he was in the first season anyway, though.
But I don't really like him.
No, that's a problem, and unfortunately, people are always like, "Yeah, you got to take the character from the actor that plays them or whatever, and it's two different things, or whatever." But it's like when that actor that plays them is doing lefty douchey shit like that, it's like,
It's
nah,
hard to
man.
separate the two.
Yeah,
Because I mean, I thought he did pretty damn good in Game of Thrones.
yeah. I was rewatching some of that show the other day. I really wish that the one Sand Snake daughter that was not like the youngest one. She was the chick with like the ponytail or whatever. I forget what her weapon of choice was in that show. I wish she had done some toplessness in that, but unfortunately that was not the case.
Oh, the middle one, right? Because the
Yeah,
young one was
yeah,
the one that actually
yeah. She did some tit showing in
showed
that.
her,
Yeah.
showed her tits to Braun,
Yep.
and the older one was, like the hardcore mean psycho,
Yeah.
and the middle daughter, I know who you're talking about, yes, because she played on, I want to say, Iron Fist.
Yep.
DC's Iron Fist.
Yeah. She was I forget what character it was from Marvel U.
Yeah,
It's
she
like a
was
known chick or
the
whatever.
martial artist.
Yeah, she's like a known that particular character she played in that series was like a known entity in that universe, and I forget what her name was offhand. It's like Connie
Yeah,
Wu or something.
yeah, I think so, something like that.
Or
But yeah,
Wong
I
or
like her.
something.
She's been in a couple other stuff too, and she was actually in, oh fuck, what was it I watched recently? Oh, The Glass Onion,
Mm-hmm.
that mystery fucking movie with
Yeah, yeah, I know
Daniel.
what you're talking about. I know what you're talking about.
She
Yeah,
was in
I
there.
haven't got a chance to see those yet. Yeah, the one that I was surprised by was that Violent Night movie. I finally got a chance to watch that around Christmas, and it didn't disappoint. And I will say that some of the Home Alone style traps in it were even crazier than they should be.
Oh, dude, that was fucking great. Especially that, what was it, like a 4 or 5 inch fucking nail?
Yeah,
Jesus,
I
dude,
was gonna say the
twice.
bowling ball snatch shot was pretty good too.
Yep, my favorite one, and there's two of them. They're kind of tied, but if I had to pick, it would be the chimney scene,
Okay.
and the grenade scene.
Yeah. Okay. Wait.
I have to
Trying to
watch.
I'm trying to think what the second. Oh, yeah. I know what you're talking about now.
But that fucking chimney scene, dude, was gnarly as shit.
Yep.
I was not expecting that to happen.
Nope. I think that's probably why, because nobody was expecting it. Now they're like, holy shit. Yeah, it was a good movie for what it was.
I mean, of course, there was a couple corny scenes in there, mostly from John Leguizamo.
Yep.
Which that's just him.
Yeah.
And I think he's an underrated actor, has been for a long time. I think maybe a couple of B movies he starred in, but for the most part, he's always been a supporting role. And he's been acting for a very long fucking time.
He is one of these people that I personally can't stand just because of the anti-gunner shit.
Yes,
And then it's hypocrisy as well on that one.
But he doesn't let it show really much in his movies, or at least
there was a thing. Actually, there was one I was watching the other day. I forget what the channel's called. It's like a Milato or something like that out here on YouTube, and they always do like a bunch of shorts and stuff. There was one that they had put up a couple months ago. It was about like people trying to kidnap like a sitting senator or whatever the case be, and it was like all about like gun violence stuff, or whatever. And I was like, who wrote the script for this? Michael Bloomberg. And then at the end credits, it was like produced by John Leguizamo, and I'm like, oh, of course it fucking was. That makes so much sense now.
See, I didn't know he was like that until I heard it was like a week ago. I didn't know, and it pisses me off when people like that, or even like Matt Damon, who have made a name in action movies where they are shooting guns a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Then they want to come out publicly and say how anti-gun they are, blah 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 blah. But you just made your fucking fortune on gun movies.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, fucking Matt Damon, Jason Bourne. A lot of gunplay in there. I mean, nothing like John Wick, of course.
I have
but
never seen
still,
any of the Jason Bourne movies.
I mean, he did. What was that one not a couple years ago? Elysium.
Yeah, I've actually seen. I don't know if I watched the whole thing of that or watched just pieces of it.
Which was it was a pretty good movie.
Yeah.
But if you're such a fucking hypocrite and anti-gun, why are you gonna be in a fucking gun movie
Or
where
I
you're
could even
literally
see it being a
shooting and
situation.
killing people?
I could even see it being a situation too where it's like, I understand, like if they come out and made like a public statement where it's like, I understand my own hypocrisy. All the profits I make from this are now going to, such and such organization or whatever the case be, like an MDA or something like that. Like at least then you'd be putting your money where your mouth is.
Yes, but they're not doing that.
Exactly.
They're hypocritical piece of shit. I could go on, but I'll stop there.
Mm-hmm.
They're just dirtbags.
Yeah, exactly.
And it just pisses me off because I'll shut up because I want to go off on a tyrant cussing rampage, and I don't want to do that on your channel. I'll save that for, mine.
Okay.
I'll keep it somewhat PC.
No, I will go off on R-rated rants myself.
Well, I mean, it's your channel.
Yeah, no.
I mean,
No.
I'm not gonna potentially say something that
Yeah, no. You're fine. You're fine. Yeah, I know what you mean. But no, like, and there's a problem, and it's like the same thing that people have said about for years. It's like these people will sit there and actively be participants in disgusting child molestation stuff in Hollywood and not say a fucking word about it.
Yep.
Because they'll either are involved in it themselves or they'll keep their fucking mouth shut because it's a go along to get along kind of mentality, and it's bullshit.
Yep.
So, anyway.
That, and a lot of the times people are just brainwashed because they hear all these ideas and not false flags, but
False
false
narratives.
statements, false narrative. Thank you, false narratives. I'm sorry, I'm fucking tired. It's like,
Yeah, it's fine. No, I get you. I don't fall asleep here, so.
and they regurgitate it without actually
Mhm.
ever doing any education for themselves. And it's like I saw this video the other day where it was this guy, young man,
Mhm.
that is a vegan, and vegans they don't do anything, drink milk or any kind of
Uh-huh.
fucking dairy. And this dude's like, I like drinking strawberry milk because it doesn't come from a cow. I'm like, are you fucking kidding me? Someone just tell you that and you ran with it without looking into it? And it was funny because it was like a split video where it was like a reactionary video.
Mhm.
And one guy said, I would like to see the teats on the strawberry and how it's milked.
Mhm.
Oh my God.
Yeah,
And
people
that's the
are.
problem. People hear stuff like that or with anything and they just take it and run with it. They don't do their own education. I mean, they don't do their own research to find out if
Yep.
it's valid or not or true.
Yeah, that's an issue. Yeah, that is a big problem I've seen as well. Or it's the same thing like other actors, like your Matthew McConaughey types that'll just sit there and regurgitate the Bloomberg talking points
Mm-hmm.
of like, oh, you don't need more than 3 shells to hunt. It's like, fuck you, dude.
And a lot of them don't even know what the fuck they're talking. They just hear it's a popular narrative and they just want to be one of the cool kids
Mm-hmm.
spouting garbage.
Yep. There was actually a movie, going back to the whole John Leguizamo secondary actor person or whatever. There's a movie he did some years back called The Babysitter. That's literally about him banging some girl. It's like a high school girl or something like that who starts like a prostitution ring.
Really?
Yeah, yeah.
Jesus.
And it I'm just like, this is fucking Hollywood in a nutshell right here. Because it was like
Well, a lot
several
of
years
people,
after the fact that I'd seen it. It turns out like all the chicks in it obviously are over the age 18, but even still, it's just, yeah, fucked up.
it's the narrative.
Yep.
He played in a movie that oh, dude, it was like, I want to say early 90s, late 80s, early 90s, somewhere about there.
Hmm.
He played in it with Patrick Swayze and Wesley Snipes. And all three of them dressed up as women.
Hmm. Yeah, they're
Did
doing
you
like
ever
a
seen
cross
that one?
dressing thing. I don't think so.
Yeah.
There was
That's an
I think
old.
there was like a different one of that in like the 2000s, I think is when it was. That was like a similar mantra. It had I'm trying to think what the guy's name is now. The dude who played Lex Luthor in Smallville.
Oh yeah, yeah. He has his
Yeah,
own
yeah, it was him.
like
It was
podcast.
Barry Watson from Seventh Heaven,
Yes,
and
I
I
seen
forget who
it.
the
It was
third
like a
guy was.
sorority.
Yeah,
It was
exactly.
a
It was
sorority.
them being kicked out of fraternity and then joining the sorority as chicks.
Yep. It was something to do with sorority in the title.
Yeah, it's like sorority girls or something like that.
Something like that. Yes, I saw that.
Yeah. I remember seeing that at the theater, and I'm just like, "What the fuck are we watching?"
Michael Rosenbaum is his name.
Yeah, yeah, yep, yeah. It was a weird fucking movie, but it was also funny though.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the thing, like that's the kind of shit that you'll notice too when it came to like the whole like woke agenda of the 2010s and beyond. Now they won't do that kind of shit anymore. So you used to be able to poke fun at stuff like that, and now it's just like, oh my god, you're gonna offend everybody.
I wonder if he's kin to what's his face.
I don't think so. It's
I know it's a joke.
yeah, I know, I know who you're talking about too.
Because when I said his name, it didn't click, but then I said it again in my head. I was
Yeah,
like, wait,
yeah,
that last name sounds familiar.
yeah. The first shot. Yeah, I'm actually surprised. Like I was watching something on Twitter last night actually about Rittenhouse, and um, he was talking about how he's trying to use like his fame now to like throw out his message of like being like pro 2A and pro life and stuff like that. And I'm just like, dude, just run for office already. Seriously,
Right. I
like
read
you
a
have
lot
the
of the
fame to do
comments.
it.
I read a lot of the comments of that video on that tweet, and dude, some of the people in there got tore apart
Hmm.
from what they were saying. You know, basically calling him a murderer,
Yeah,
and um, how can you be pro life when you kill two people? It's hypocritical, but he did it out of self defense. It's not like he went
well, and
there
that's the
seeking.
thing.
Which one
It's
comment was that
yeah.
proclaiming that he went there seeking everything to go down.
There was a
And
dude recently who I saw. It was because Rittenhouse's name every so often will trend on Twitter every like week or two or whatever it is.
yeah,
And there was some dude on there. I'm shocked that Elon Musk hasn't permanently banned that dude's account because he was directly threatening Rittenhouse and in like an indirect way because he was basically like, "Oh, hey Kyle, when's the next time you're gonna go to one of these protests slash rallies or whatever the case be? Because two can play at that game." And I'm just like,
wow.
"Wow, dude."
I don't think Kyle will ever go to anything like that
I sure as
again.
fuck wouldn't go unarmed to any of those things in the future.
Right. But I mean he's after what happened the first time
Yeah.
and going through the trial and not knowing whether you're going to
Hmm.
prison or not, and then just the emotional roller coaster, and then being found not guilty, and just the relief. And I'm sure he's still dealing with PTSD from
Hmm.
all of that, which is understandable. I don't think that man's going to be putting himself in any kind of
No, if I was gonna be in any, if I was gonna go to any event or whatever like that, where I knew I could be like essentially anonymous, I would just throw on a fucking hat and a mask. And I'm talking about like not like a what you call it mask, but like one of the what do you call those things? Like a gator thing that you can
yeah.
completely make yourself unidentifiable in, and throw some
Hmm.
sunglasses on or something like that, and just be like, don't say a word, just walk around. So
I don't know. If I was him, I would never consider or
yeah,
even attempt to
I
do
don't
it.
think he will. I think he's just trying to keep a low profile at this point now as much as possible, but unfortunately he can't. Is what it is.
Yeah, because he's too much of a public figure.
Yeah.
Because I mean, his case set a precedent that, without a shadow of a doubt, we have a legal right to self-defense.
Yep.
So, and he's owning it, which kudos to him, because he
Yeah.
could have easily just went and hid in his house and never be seen again, never come out.
Yeah. Well, I think the entire point he's trying to make now is that it's because he has been threatened so much, his mother's been threatened so much, and like you have to make a statement at some point.
Yeah.
Which the statement now would be just cleaning the floor with the mainstream media that slandered you for so long.
I don't know if he successfully sued anybody yet. I
He has
know.
he hasn't even done lawsuits at all quite yet. The only lawsuit he's involved in is Rosenbaum's idiot fucking father trying to sue him in the state of Kenosha, or city of Kenosha in
Oh,
the state of Wisconsin.
I thought it was the other guy, not Rosenbaum.
Or yeah, you're right. It's not Rosenbaum. It's Hooper's father.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's Hooper's dad. Yeah, which is just bullshit lawsuits anyway. On that one, it's just like the same thing with the Gross Kurtz lawsuit against like the city of Kenosha and shit like that as well.
That dude fucked himself out of any kind of lawsuit that he could ever
Well,
file.
no, he
What he
made the
said and
lawsuit
done.
happen, and then like right after that, he's like, "No, I was totally gonna kill that kid that night," or something like that when he was talking to like some random attorney person in some like little fucking get together or something like that on some park. Like the
Well,
day
not
after
only
that.
that, but just what he said on the witness stand.
Yeah, I'm saying this is all before the trial though, is what happened.
Yeah.
And that's what I thought was funny. I'm like, you're just a fucking moron, dude. Like, just shut your mouth. Seriously.
Yeah, he's not gonna win a jack shit.
No.
In
I
fact,
think they've already dismissed the case anyway at this point for that lawsuit
whatever
there.
happened with oh my god, what are their names? Yeah, Joseph Roosevelt, Anthony Hubert. Fuck,
What are the other two? What is it? Husband and wife, or brother and
Oh,
sister?
Joshua Zeminski and his wife. You mean?
Maybe the one that actually fired the shot that
Yeah,
initialized.
Zeminski was the first one. He was under the alias of Alexander Blaine that night. His real name is Joshua Zeminski. Him and his wife, I forget what her name is, they both cut deals with the fucking prosecution. Binger's piece of shit ass to never be charged, which is absolute
That's
BS.
bullshit. Because I know they were supposed to be going to court.
Yeah, and
right
honestly,
after.
and this is why it should be with stuff like that, because that is like, I understand that, like, yes, it's a fucking state issue or whatever the case be, but when it's done to the point where it is a federal, like, nationwide thing or whatever, you should be able to go federally on that.
Mm-hmm.
And be like, nah, man, like, we know you were the one that initiated this whole fucking thing. Your ass is going to federal prison now, is what it is.
Yes, they both should have, because had he not fired that shot, potentially it wouldn't have escalated to what happened.
Well, the thing was, he was a multi-time felon at that point. He had weapons of disability that night.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it's a bunch of BS entirely. He wasn't charged with anything.
And
Or
why
like
hasn't
I forget what the guy's name was. They called Jump Kick Man. They knew who the fuck that guy was. Day
oh
number
yeah, they
one.
know exactly who that guy
Because
is.
he was a multi-time felon too.
Yeah. And why hasn't Gage been prosecuted for illegally having a pistol? Because wasn't
he was. There's like a bunch of differing stories. I know he was supposed to have lost like a CCW at one point. He should have caught like at least misdemeanor charges for whatever, because he was illegally carrying.
Because I know they said he was a felon, which he wasn't a felon.
He had burglary charges previous to that I think were pled down to like misdemeanors or something is what it was. Mm-hmm. But he had lost a CCW over that, so he was illegally carrying that night for sure.
Yep.
The big difference is that not only was there that stuff, but apparently it also came out that he had like a bunch of Antifa affiliations as well, or like communist group affiliations or something in the Kenosha area is what it was.
Doesn't surprise me.
Yeah. And that was stuff that all came out like after the trial.
He's not the brightest bulb in the box for sure.
No, as I said to Nina Turner the other day, I said, your elevator doesn't go all the way to the top, does it, lady? She was on Twitter the other day talking about something relating to communism and minimum wage stuff or something like that. So, but yeah, these people are all a bunch of morons, is what it is.
Mm-hmm. That's an understatement.
So, but yeah, I think that's a good place to end it right now, I think, honestly.
Yeah, I was about to say the same thing, because it's 2:30 for me here, and
yeah,
I'm fading quick. I'm tired.
Yeah, I am too. So, but yeah, I'd like to thank everybody for watching this tonight. To reiterate to begin with there, because this obviously was about the man that we call East Coast Cory. That dude, he needs to look at other people's perspective of the thing and get some real life experience is what it is. And that's all I'll really say about that, honestly. So, anyway.
Stop living in a fantasy land.
Yeah, exactly. You can have your fantastical theories and stuff like that, but in reality, when it's tried, it's not going to succeed, man. And it's that simple, honestly.
Mm-hmm.
So, but yeah, I'll be back at some point here in the next few days with something. Hopefully, we will see Mad Mark's first Mark My Words chat tomorrow then. And Soulless Ginger and myself will both be on the panel, hopefully. So, but yeah, other than that, I'll be back probably like Monday or Tuesday on this channel for some stuff. I'm waiting to see what the first legislation that drops from the new Ohio General Assembly will be. And hopefully it's not a bunch of anti-gun shit. So,
right.
Other than that, that's where we're at for the day. Hope you guys enjoyed this episode, and I will see you all in the next one.
There you go.